Welcome to another episode of One Question, where here at Open Doors we ask many artists the same question and then compile their answers together. The music industry can be a challenging place. There's more to succeeding than writing great songs and performing them for crowds. We found out what these artists find most frustrating about the music industry by asking them this one question. If you could change anything about the music industry, what would it be and why?
If the industry had more support at the level of young kids, all kinds of kids learning music in school, and therefore it wouldn't be sort of those that got the most attention got to go somewhere, but all kids would have been experiencing music. And I think the industry wants to pluck the success off the top, but it seems as though the investment isn't going in at the grassroots, either in the education system or for young performers. They can't get various kinds of supports from government, and they really have a hard time. So I think we really need to be investing more in the youth if we want to see the industry flourish.
Other places that I've lived have had music start a lot earlier in the day, in the pubs, in the bars, like over in Ireland and even down in Nashville, and the children were able to be privy to live music where they're not unless it's an all ages show, which is once in a blue moon. I think that if I could change something, I would start a lot of things earlier and have just so kids know that that's an option, that's a thing, that the people actually do that.
I would make it more open to new people, and like what you guys are doing, this kind of program. If it wasn't for this kind of program, there would be people like me who would never have access to this kind of thing, and just the level of support. I found once you were unless you were out onto the scene, you really didn't have a lot of opportunities to collaborate. So if you weren't playing bars, you weren't playing clubs, you really didn't have sort of a musical outlet to go to.
I guess at least locally, the first thing that comes to mind is the way that our funding works for artists, especially for new artists. If you can get a grant to record, you're sort of limited unless you have your own money to burn, because recording projects are so expensive. Making a music video is so expensive, and generally you don't get a whole lot from these from the grant.
I would bring back record sales, because my dad talks to me a lot about how streaming really did a number on artists, because they don't make it near as much money as they did when they were selling records and CDs. So I would probably bring back vinyl and CDs for people to buy, because streaming doesn't give you a lot of money.
Right. It would certainly be how artists are valued. So it's a weird juxtaposition these days where you have, you want the work to be valued for the sake of itself. You want the artistic merit of the song to carry forward, or you want the musicianship or the vocal stylings or whatever it is that you consider a mode of excellence of any kind. You want that to kind of carry you through no matter what and have value regardless of commodifying it. You want that to be valuable in spite of whether or not there's a price tag attached to it. And yet, on the other side of things, you have the whole YouTube factor where you get 0.0087 cents per stream or whatever ridiculous fraction of a cent it is, that if you do go through the pains of paying for studio time and making sure that your work is captured in an accurate and professional way, that is a costly endeavor, and your capacity to redeem some of those costs is really, really limited, just due to the way we value music. It's just such a hot commodity in so many ways that it's devalued in terms of the price tag, and yet you want it to not only be about the price tag and also be about its artistic merit. So it's a weird line to dance in terms of that. If I could change anything about the industry, it would be that, in terms of making sure our artists are able to be adequately compensated for like their time or their talent, but also you know, noting that the work is valuable even if you aren't making 70% of your income based on that work, or whatever eligibility criteria you may have to meet in order to be considered an export-ready artist, or whatever terminology is currently used in the industry. So it kind of pits artists against themselves in some way, because you're forced to commodify yourself in order to be legitimized, in order to access, you know, bigger audiences, festival opportunities, those types of things. Consider yourself a professional when you could be just judged by your artistic merit, and you might also run a day job that's not your sole income. So it's a weird line to dance. If I could change anything about the industry, it would be that, in terms of like, let's dismantle and tweak the whole commodification of it and value system, and just make sure people are adequately compensated, but also don't have to be attached to a commodity in order to put their work out there in the world.
You know, the industry is focused on money, because that's what an industry is. You have to make money, but music is so touchy. You can't, how do you measure how you're gonna make money on music? Like,
you know, to apply for a lot of funding or performance opportunities, you need to have like such a strong social media presence, which is like the world we live in, and that's fine, but it's just frustrating to me, I guess, that it's now on par, like your internet persona has to be as important as the work you're doing.
so if I could change something about the industry, is that it would be based on talent and not how much money you have, where you're from, what you look like, you know, all superficial things like that. Because where you're from is a huge part of how successful you're gonna be, because depending on where you're from, you're gonna have different opportunities. So if I could change one thing, it's you know, taking all that superficial stuff and turning it into talent. So like, success is based on talent and not anything else.
Drives me right up to the soul of it, and you've gone nowhere, and yet there you are. You've gone nowhere, and yet there you are. You've gone nowhere, and yet there